Welcome back to Worst Seats in the House. Mike Russo, Anthony LaPanta coming to you from Tuttle's on this beautiful, beautiful Thursday night. Thanks for everybody for coming on out, especially on short notice. Anthony, I was getting a little worried until about an hour or two ago when you quote tweeted today's tweet. I'm like, do I have to reach out to Margot and let her know that there's a podcast tonight? But you knew.
I knew.
Yep.
I even advertised it. I played golf at Windsong today. Let the guys in my group know that I had a podcast tonight.
Nice.
I don't think they're coming, but they were fascinated to know.
Like, you have a podcast? Yeah. Well, thanks to everybody for coming on out. Thanks to all our sponsors as well, and for coming on out, especially to Tuttle's here. As I mentioned, real quick on a short notice, between games 2 and 3, and obviously the Wild, this is like a do-over of the 2014 series, Anthony, where the Wild come back from the first 2 games in Colorado. They're down 0-2 in the series. But if you remember that year, the Wild were able to rally in games 3 and 4.
They were. This has a different feel. The way they lost those first 2 games in Denver that year, certainly the second game, they walked away feeling like they had been the better team. That was the game with the missed offside that allowed Colorado to score with the extra attacker, and then they won the game in overtime. So it felt like they had a game taken from them, but these two were different. The first game surprised me. I never would have guessed that the way the Wild had played in the first round series, that they'd surrender 9 goals in a game in a playoff game. So this is a different adjustment that has to be made. They're facing a different club here. This is the best team in the NHL over the course of the year for a reason. Colorado showed it, and now the Wild have to answer.
Yeah. And the other thing that happened that series, so the Wild come back, they win 2 games. They won the McCall Granlund overtime winner. Then they won the 1-goal game in game 4. But if you remember in game 5 as well, there was a missed offsides, and Mike Yeo, just a masterful coaching move after that game, wasn't bitching and moaning. He just absolutely made it clear we have to go back and win game 6 to get back to Denver. And they did just that. And then obviously had one of the most exciting games in history in game 7. It's still to this day, of all the playoff games I've covered with numerous different teams, that's still to rally back 4 times from 1 goal down.
And it really typified the whole series, because down 2-0, they came back, tie at 2-2. Down 3-2, they got the win to tie at 3-3. And then in that game, overcoming the 4 deficits, even with a goaltender having to be pulled from the game in the third period. It was a team that never got rattled. And I remember talking to Mike Yeo as we got on the plane to go to Chicago that night. And I just kind of turned to him and half jokingly said, "Yeah, never a doubt." And he said, "Well, you know what?" He said, "I honestly never had a doubt. I just thought we were playing so well, somehow it was going to end up that we were going to win." And I felt that way the whole series, where it just felt like Colorado had won 2 games where they scored with the extra attacker. Remember, that was when Patrick Waugh kind of changed how everybody thought about when to pull the goaltender. And they twice tied games with the goalie pulled and then won them in overtime. And it just felt like Minnesota was playing well enough that whole series to win, and they eventually did.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Jared Spurgeon had still, to me, one of the most iconic goals to tie it up. Nino Niederreiter sends him the puck in the right circle. He outweights Nathan McKinnon as he slides by the screen, essentially, and then scores across the grain for the tying goal. And, obviously wins it in overtime. And as you know, I was extremely calm between the third period and overtime as I was rewriting my articles. So let's talk about this series.
I got screamed at in the press box.
Yeah, that's par for the course with you and me. Somebody asked me the other day, though, if you really bother me, and I'm like, yeah, he does. So anyway,
I get asked all the time, is that really how delusional Russo is? Yes.
No, that's impossible. So, all right, let's talk about this series, Anthony. We talked about, obviously, the 9-6 game. Special teams is the key right now, because it really felt like game 2, the Wild repaired a lot of the issues that were plaguing them at 5-on-5, and it was more of a 50-50 game, maybe even an edge to the Wild at even strength. But special teams just continues to kill them. I mean, they are at historically bad levels right now. So the worst penalty kill in Stanley Cup final playoffs history since they've tracked this stuff since 1978 is at 43.8%. That was like 4 years ago, the LA Kings. But in terms of series that actually get past the first round into round 2, the Wild have the lowest penalty kill percentage in history at 59%. And it's just, and it's almost made us forget how bad their power play
Right,
has
that's
been
what I
as
was going to say. Is that to me is as surprising is the fact that the power play, and yes, there was a stretch without Zuccarello where it struggled, but it struggled since he got back. Now, I know they didn't have Eriksson X. They have been missing pieces of it, but it's still. I never would have thought that the power play would have this kind of struggle. I thought the penalty kill might have trouble with Dallas. That Dallas power play was. I know I talked about it during the broadcast throughout the series. It was historically good. It was in the top 10 in the history of the NHL, and they were clicking. This Colorado one is a head scratcher, though, and not because the Wild can't stop them. It's because how in the world were they in the bottom 5 all year when you've got the kind of talent they have, and they haven't looked like a bottom 5 power play so far in this series. And I don't think that's fair to just say, well, it's because they're facing the Wild's kill, which is inept. They've looked good. They've looked sharp. They've moved the puck the way you'd expect a power play with that kind of skill to move it. But they're going to have to figure this out because you can't win this series with the special teams the way they've been in the first 2 games.
Yeah, I do think that it's because the Wild kill has been abysmal.
Well, it's a part
I was
of
just
it.
talking to Eric Johnson on the way here, and Eric obviously played for the Colorado Avalanche for years and is friends with all these guys. So but on the record for a story that I'm going to write with Joe Smith on Saturday, we talked about the penalty kill. And he told me that it's funny because as I almost flippantly, like tongue in cheek, said before the series in our preview that if I was Jared Bednar, I would look at what Dallas was doing on the power play and say to his guys, do that. And he told me, and remember, he was between the benches for a lot of that Dallas series. That's exactly what Jared Bednar has done. So we talked about this earlier on the podcast about how the Wild just seemingly during that Dallas power play couldn't handle the double bump, the double drop pass. And every time they re-gapped, they allowed Dallas to fly into the zone at speed.
Dallas used it differently than most teams use it, though. That double drop, they used it very differently than most teams execute
Eric Johnson
that.
said that Colorado has basically never done the double drop, and now they're doing it every game. And so they clearly see, and what he says is that what the Wild almost need to do is get somebody even and then underneath Cale Makar and just allow Cale to go into the zone and not allow the double drop at all because you don't want Natchez or McKinnon basically skating the puck in unencumbered the way they are. And then the other thing that he says the Wild are doing is that they're just almost reckless in the way that they're playing the penalty kill, that they need to almost just give them the goal line and assume that that's the least likely to score from, even though Jason Robertson scored a power play goal from that area. But they're just allowing these guys to just set up shop in that bumper position right in the middle, and it's just killed them. And we saw the other night Jake Middleton was in between, and then obviously the Nathan McKinnon goal. That's something that Oshie used to score from 1,000 times a year.
Yeah, and there's a couple things there. One is that I was really intrigued by how Dallas used the double drop because they used it differently than any team that I've seen. And a lot of times, if you watched, Duchesne would just take it to one side of the rink and create different lanes where normally it's run from more in the middle of the rink. And as far as the Wild penalty kill goes, and I'm admittedly I am not a penalty kill coverage rules expert in terms of like what the team's rules are with their structure. But we had so many conversations about it with John Hines and especially when Wes would be involved because they'd start talking about, well, when it goes here, and then if this guy does this, and if this guy's right-handed instead of left-handed, we're doing this and this. It's incredibly complex. But for the most part, it is designed where they relinquish the goal line. And if you remember last year, they struggled with teams scoring by driving down the goal line. And the number of times I asked this year, I said, but isn't that what you decided you were going to give away? So that is the design of their penalty kill, is to allow that the goal line play and to take away other things instead. So it's probably if that's what Eric Johnson is seeing or saying that he thinks they need to do, that's what they're supposed to be doing anyway. So wouldn't be an adjustment. It would just be an attention to detail kind of thing for the Wild.
Which is what John Hines keeps saying. The other thing is, and Eric pointed this out, the penalty killing your goaltender, the old cliche, needs to be your best goalie. They've been atrocious, the two of them. Atrocious. Their save percentage through 8 games on the kill is 62.5%.
Right. their goaltending on the penalty kill all year was among the league's best.
Yeah.
And this isn't like, if you look at high danger save percent, it isn't because it's all high dangers. They just haven't gotten saves. And that makes the penalty kill look, especially in a small sample size, when you're talking about 8 games, 2 saves makes the difference of 10%. And that's not that makes it an elite penalty kill, but at least makes it so it's not the historically bad one that it is.
72% is better than 62%.
That's right.
I do know that.
They need a save. They absolutely need a save. And both goaltenders have been guilty in this series. I know there's a lot of fans that were, that's why you couldn't start Gus when he allows the first shot to go in, and you can't allow that one to go in. But Wallstedt had 2 or 3 in his game where you need a save there too. So both of them were guilty of it. They need a save in game 3, and a few of them.
I can't remember what you said on the last pod, if you would have gone back to Gus or gone back to Wally. What did you think?
I said Gus, and I said I think this is what you have to do, because if your guy gave up 8, if you're not going to go to the other goalie after he gives up 8,
when are you? And
you had to. They absolutely had to. And look, Gus needed to make that save, and there was one other in the game I thought he needed to make, but they didn't lose that game because of Philip Gustafsson. I mean, they couldn't generate enough offensively, and Gus played relatively well the rest of the way. And if you look, he was less underwater in terms of saves below expected than Wally was in game 1.
That's for sure.
And Wally was 3.25 goals underneath expected. But the team wasn't great in front of either one of them. They were better in game 2, but neither goaltender was outstanding. I got to believe it's going to be Wally in game 3, and they need him to be the Wally we saw in the first round.
And my guess is that was probably the plan all along, even if Gus won. I think they just felt like, to your point, if you give up 8 goals, your goalie probably needs to take a little bit of a timeout and get physically and mentally reset.
Well, and you owe it to Gus, you owe it to the team. To everybody else, you're talking about that if you don't perform, then we're going to make some changes. And they've done that with guys up and down the lineup. And if you don't do it after a guy gives up 8, and how do you look Gus in the eye the rest of the playoffs and say, hey, be ready, be ready. He could give up 11. I think Gus was good enough all season where he deserved that opportunity. Now, if Gus had played great and they win the game 2-1, then you go back to Gus. But after what happened in that game, I think now you go back to Wally.
Okay, so now the Wild had an optional practice today. On Friday, they will have a full practice. We will see if Eriksson Ek skates. I know that as of game 1, they were hoping that, or he was hoping that he would be able to play here. Now, he does have a significant injury, and we saw that obviously in 2023, he had a significant injury. He skated for a week, did stops and starts and all that type of stuff, and it still gave out on him right off his off a face-off in the D zone. And so the question now becomes, even if he is healthy, can he get through a game? And then if he's healthy and you're obviously, if the doctors say that he could play and he wants to play, you're going to play him. But do you have to figure out a way to keep Danila Yurov in the lineup just as an insurance policy if he doesn't get through the game? John Hines obviously wasn't the coach of that 2023 team, but somebody better remind him.
Yeah, and he's aware of it. And that was a part of when we talked to him a lot about lineup decisions before the playoffs. That was one of the things was he said, if we were to lose a center, particularly one of our top 2 centers, it's nice to have somebody else in the lineup that can elevate. And I think if the series wasn't 0-2, if it was 1-1 right now, maybe you give Eriksson Ek another day and wait till Monday. But right now the season's on the line. So if there's any way that he can duct tape it together and get himself on the ice, he's going to want to do that. The team's going to probably want to do that. And obviously we're assuming that that it's an injury that you cannot make worse by playing on it. But you got an off season ahead if you don't get him in there.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's just crazy how the injury happened. I mean, this is just one of the best skaters on the team that just lost an edge and wiped out. So the Brodin injury is the one that's really looming large, and I don't get the impression he's coming back anytime soon, Anthony. So now what do you do here? Because I don't think you can go back to Jake Middleton and Jared Spurgeon. They've given up 12 non-empty net goals in the series. Jake's been on 9 of them, and Jared's been on 8 of them. So I think that you either got to elevate Damon Hunt or you got to break up Faber and Hughes and play Spurgeon with Hughes and Faber with Middleton. what would you do?
I was during the last game. As I was watching from home, I thought I got to believe at some point here we see Hunt with Spurgeon and try to at least give you another skating set of defensemen. And then at home, you can pick your spots a little bit differently with your third set, with Middleton and whether it be Bogosian or Petrie or whoever the right side defenseman is in that group. I think you almost have to. This is a different challenge than what Dallas presented. And you could overcome the loss of Jonas Brodin in a Dallas series where it was more of a fight for every inch, get to the net kind of series. This is more of a skating series. Mm-hmm. I think the best way to replace him might be with the better skater in Damon Hunt.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
just at least see. And Hunt certainly didn't look overmatched when we saw him in that game, in the games in Colorado. I thought he didn't look like the moment was too big for him. So I think you give him a shot and see what happens.
And the Wild have given up 14 goals in the series, and he hasn't been on any of them. So, getting sheltered minutes, but still, when Colorado's skating through you the way they are, and you're getting penalty kill time, and you haven't been on the ice for a goal against, tells you that you're playing pretty well. By the way, we have a microphone up here. If you want to ask questions, feel free to come up at any time starting now. We also have some stress relief pucks that when you're listening at home, you can squeeze it whenever Anthony's talking. Some toques, some hats, some sweatshirts as well. And as always, make sure you follow us on social media at Talk North. Apparently, we're on TikTok. Who knew that? And obviously X and
I was
Instagram.
not aware.
Yeah,
I'll
I know.
have to check that
You're
out.
not on TikTok?
I'm not
surprised.
on TikTok.
You will be. And then,
you think so?
Yep. And then we have a YouTube channel, right? Talk North, apparently. So you can see our pretty faces. Question.
Hi, this is Anthony LaPanta. I recently made my first visit ever to a stretch lab. I stopped at the location out in Maple Grove and had a great stretch practitioner named Tom who was terrific. I can't wait to get back. As you try to fight the aging process, which I'm right there with you, trying to battle it, flexibility is one of the big keys. I felt great after my first stretch, and I'm planning to go back weekly. There are 10 locations all across the Twin Cities. I highly recommend checking out Stretch Lab.
You've heard me for years talk about my Connecticut water treatment system in my house. Well, many homeowners don't realize how much hard or poor quality water affects your daily life. Issues include cloudy water, bad taste, buildup on fixtures, dry skin, appliance wear, everything. Well, I have your solution, and it's Aquarius Home Services. They are your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Connecticut systems provide worry-free water throughout your entire home. Systems right now start at $9.95 per month for the first 3 months. It's $9.95 per month for the first 3 months. Their technicians will come to your home and provide a free in-home water quality testing analysis. Aquarius handles everything from your testing to your installation. One call and your problem is solved. You can enjoy spotless dishes, softer clothes, smoother, softer skin and hair, worry-free drinking water right from your faucet. That means no more plastic water bottles, no more water cans, everything. You'll be surprised also how little salt it uses. Visit right now or book your services at AquariusHomeservices.com. That's AquariusHomeservices.com, earning the right to be recommended. That's Aquarius Home Services. And don't forget to tell them that Russo sent you.
Life comes with a lot of things to remember, and Great Clips doesn't think your haircut should be one of them. That's why they use Clip Notes to save your haircut details, so no matter which stylist you see or Great Clips salon you visit, it's easy to feel like the best version of you. So do yourself a favor. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to a great haircut every time. Download the app today. Great Clips. It's going to be great.
Make it good, because last time you were on here, we had a cut.
I got
like
cut
5
to the
minutes
cutting
ago.
room floor.
Yeah.
And
we don't do that often.
I know.
But you were very controversial with your question.
Yeah. So with the Wild really needing a good center and the assets, do they have the assets to get a good center in the offseason? And then follow up to that with the unrestricted free.
So you're ending the series already. You want to talk about the offseason?
Let's talk about the summer.
Yeah.
Well, there'll be other questions.
We have
about
little
that.
faith.
No, I think they'll go to 7 games. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So, and then with the unrestricted free agents, who do the Wild make an offer to?
I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, my mind's not really on this right now because I'm so positive and optimistic in normal circumstances.
Right.
In terms of, if you want to get a top center, Jesper's going to probably have to be in the deal. So the question is, does this change the way they look at things or not? The way that he's played so far in this postseason. But if you're getting Austin Matthews or Brady Tkachuk or Dylan Larkin or Hughes or Heischer, it's not going to be for a bunch of little prospects. It's going to have to be
one of the goalies is in the deal.
Well, but I don't think Philip Gustafson's getting that. And you also, I mean, at this point, maybe he would waive his no move, but he does have a full no move. In terms of UFAs, I mean, we have to see who they make trades for, right? I mean, there's not a lot of good unrestricted free agents out there. I mean, Alex Tuck is probably the best one. Then he's going to get paid, whether it's from Buffalo or somebody else. But there's really not a lot. So if they're going to get a center, it's probably going to have to be on the trade market. So, question.
I actually had the same question that he had, but he stole it. So I got
everybody's burying the Wild.
Well, I was going to ask if this is finally the offseason that they get a number one center, and why is his name Austin Matthews? But that's okay. We'll move on to the next question.
Yeah. I do think Austin's going to get himself out of there.
Well, I mean, I guess winning the draft lottery might help too.
Yeah.
So question is, I know the Brodin injury is pretty much bad luck. He blocked a shot. Is it something maybe that he's been injured so often now? Like, is it something that they may look to move him in the offseason just because he's injured? And, obviously availability is important, especially at this time of the year.
Yeah. It's such a tough question because there is a double-edged sword here because you're 1,000,000% right here where, you can't rely on him. It feels like every year this happens. But the other thing is then when you see him out of the lineup, you see how hard he is to replace. So that's the toughest thing. So unless he's going to get you something, I don't think you just kick him out of here. It's got to be what is coming back in that trade. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And I also think
wow, this is a lineup of questions.
Yeah,
this is crazy.
It's hard to, it would be different if the injuries were a different type of injury. Like something like this where he blocks a shot, and I'd have to go back to think about it, but I know there's been at least 3 where it's been a block shot that one was on his ankle, one was on his foot, and this one on the foot, obviously. Those are freak injuries. There's not much you can do about those. It isn't like it's wear. Now he's had some wear and tear injuries too, but it hasn't had that every year. So I don't know. I mean, he'd be a tough guy to replace right now. There aren't very many that defend the way he defends. And you'd have to get something pretty special, I think, coming back to make a move with him.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Question.
Hi, guys. Thanks again for doing this and all you do year-round.
Thank you.
I know there's a lot more strategy than my simple mind can handle on the penalty kill, but it just seems in watching the Wild compared to other teams, they seem to be a lot more passive, like they start their penalty kill kind of in a box at the top of the circles, where you see other teams start their penalty kill at the red line and they step in more aggressively to cut off the east-west passes along the blue line, or even charge a guy handling the puck. I wonder, it doesn't seem like the Wild have ever even, what they're doing right now isn't working. Why not be a little bit more aggressive sometimes?
Yeah, we could talk about, I'll let you answer, but I will say that's exactly what Eric Johnson just said, is that their neutral zone forecheck has been just brutal, and every time they re-gap on these double drop passes, it's just created havoc with them, and they're allowing these guys in the zone. So the adjustment Eric said that he would make is, quite frankly, allowing Kel, is get underneath Kel, so not allow him to make that drop pass and just allow him to skate as far as he wants into the zone, assuming that now what it's going to do is it's going to take these forwards that are pretty much stopped at the blue line and then get into the zone and have to get caught up and set up. And he says the hardest part of any power play is getting set up. So if you just let Kale go into the zone and allow and make sure his forwards are basically all standing still at the blue line, it's going to allow you to be more aggressive with Cal.
Yeah. Now, the only thing I would add is that, well, number one, the Wild were one of the best in the league at disrupting zone entries on the kill over the course of the season. Matt Boldy is elite in that area. Marcus Foligno is very good in that area. And after McCarron came, there were a number of times, remember early in the year was Trennian and Foligno who would stand up at the blue line and make those entries tough. But they were among, I don't know where it ended, but I know late in the season, they were in the top 5 or 6 in terms of denying zone entries on the kill. When you look at their kill over the course of the season, well, I think they ended up number 12 in the regular season. And that was with being 28th for the first month and a half. So this kill has been a problem in this playoff, in these 8 playoff games. But it wasn't an issue down the stretch for Minnesota. So I don't think it's a systematic thing. But the point about being aggressive, the key with aggressiveness is decisiveness. And when one guy goes, everybody's got to know that's when he's going. That means I do this, he does this, he does this. You have one less guy than them. So everybody has to be on the same page. And when they struggle, it's kind of like goalies when they struggle. They tend to get less aggressive because you have less confidence. So goalies will drift back in their net. Penalty kills get more passive because they don't want to, well, I think I could get that, but I better be safe because we've given up a lot of power play goals. So there has been a lack of confidence and aggressiveness on the kill in the playoffs, but it isn't a systematic issue. It's a attention to detail issue for what the Wild have been doing.
Question.
Yeah, so my question's about officiating. This is my first full season and first playoff season as a hockey fan, and it seems like a little bit towards the end of the Dallas series, and especially in the first couple of games in this series, the Wild have been on the frustrating end of some officiating situations.
You're a fast learner.
Well, I'm listening to the best show around. So there's of course like Ryan Hartman covering the puck in whatever game that was. My memory's so bad, but and then there's particularly the back 60% of game 2 against Colorado is like Matt Boldy getting sucker punched, Matt Boldy getting boarded, Matt Boldy getting slew-footed against Dallas. And I was just wondering if y'all had any thoughts about that, or if there was something that I'm missing being a new hockey fan. Or
no, you're not missing anything.
Help me be less upset about this.
Well, there are bad calls that go both ways, but I think what's been frustrating for Minnesota in this is that they went into that series with Dallas knowing that Dallas's power play would kill them if they were shorthanded, and they were right. So they went in with a mantra to stay away from all retaliatory penalties, make sure that you're disciplined where it isn't, we don't let those kind of things get to us. And they did that really well and didn't get rewarded for it. And that was what had them frustrated in that series. So there is a skill to this, and Jamie Benn, love him or hate him or whatever, he's good at it. He's good at it's not legal, but he's good at it. Giving Boldy a whack behind the play that he knows isn't going to get called. Minnesota's agitators are not as talented that way, and they've earned a reputation with it. Ryan Hartman he's earned the reputation of being a guy to watch for. So there's a little bit of that, but the bigger thing is that I think the Wild were frustrated too throughout that first round series, that they had preached to their guys, don't get caught up in all that stuff, and will get power plays because of it, and they didn't get them. Dallas took the first shot. Minnesota didn't retaliate. Nobody got called. When Minnesota did retaliate, they took both. And that to me is the one thing that changes in the playoffs. I know that it's a myth that they call fewer penalties. They actually call more. There's more power plays in the playoffs than there are in the regular season. Have been 12 of the last 14 years. But what they don't do is give teams 5-on-3s, and they're really more likely to take both instead of the guy that delivered the first punch. And that drives fans crazy, drives me crazy. I wish that it's a penalty. It was a penalty all season. It should be a penalty now. And the fact that they watch a guy get punched, and then when the other guy punches him back, they say, okay, now we're taking both of you. Well, if you would have if you thought the first one was a penalty, you should have called it before he got punched back. And if you had put your arm up, he wouldn't have got punched back. So that to me doesn't make any sense. And I've never understood officials who say, well, I mean, it's the playoffs. We're not going to decide the game. You're deciding the game by not making a call.
Well said. Question. You might be our youngest person that's ever asked a question.
How do the Wild bring more physicality and not get penalties?
Great question. I think that's been actually beyond being the best question so far of the show. No offense to everybody else. But I think that's been one of the more fascinating parts of this series, Anthony, is that, against Dallas, the Wild were able to really impose their will physically against the Stars. And you could see as the series went along, they just did the Stars didn't want to go get pucks. And here, the Wild haven't been able to establish that game. And Jim Nill said today, the Dallas Stars GM, that what disappointed him the most about the first round series is that the Wild were able to get to their game early and just kept it going, where I think that's going on with Colorado now, not to mention, as the young questioner just asked, it just seems like they have been the more physical team, especially against the Wild skill guys. So Boldy's getting hammered, Hughes is getting hammered, Kaprizov's getting hammered, and they have been the ones that are imposing their will.
I think that's what has to happen in this series. If it's going to change, the Wild have to get more physical. And I don't know, maybe it's in the back of their mind that being careful because they know the penalty kill's struggling. I don't know. I haven't heard guys comment that would lead me to believe that, but maybe that's happening. They absolutely have to find a way to get this series played more in that style, because right now Colorado has dictated a lot in the game flow, and I think it's a big reason why they're up 2-0.
Yep. Great question. You have any others or no? Okay, grab yourself some grab a hat or a puck or grab one of those. Yep. Appreciate it. Question.
Tough act to follow.
So
definitely the best question of the show so far.
Can the Wild afford 2 goalies next year? Because according to Ryan Carter, your cohort in his pod, he basically said if you have 2 good goalies, you don't have 1 great goalie. And right now it seems like it's setting up for maybe the rotation's not going to work so well next year.
Well, he's using an old cliche that's a football cliche that if you have 2 quarterbacks, it means you don't have any quarterbacks.
And he was a high school quarterback, so he would know.
He would know. He wasn't a goalie, though. But yes, is the short answer. They can afford to have the 2 of them. They certainly can afford it. If you look around the league, there's a lot of teams that have 2 goaltenders. Colorado's one of them with Blackwood and Wedgwood. They split the load all season long. So they can. I think the bigger question is, to the question we had earlier in the show, if you're going out and trying in the trade market to bring in an impact top 6 forward, though one of those 2 guys is likely going the other way in that trade if it's for a front line type player, just because that's the best asset the Wild have to trade right now.
Can they actually trade Gus, or will they have to get him to okay that?
He'd have to okay it, but if you really were trying to show him the door, and I'm not saying they are, there's ways you could probably get him to accept it. All right, well, then stay here and be Wally's backup because we're keeping Wally. I mean, there's ways you could make it clear to him that this isn't the right spot anymore. I don't think that's what they are right now.
The one thing I'll make clear, and I don't know if we talked about on the show, is that, 1, literally they could afford it. The 2 of them are very affordable. And then 2, proverbially they can as well. I mean, look, the rotation worked this year. It got them in the playoffs and made them the 3rd best team in the conference. And the goal is to, 1, make the playoffs, and 2, there's nothing to say that if Gustafsson doesn't flounder down the stretch next year and that he's the better of the 2 goalies, that he's the guy going into the playoffs. So I don't think that they have to trade either of them. The question is, if you want to go get that top player this offseason, you might need to use one of them to go do it. And I'm not convinced that it still wouldn't be Wally. I mean, look, Bill Guerin is bold. And, if he feels like he can get Austin Matthews and Jesper Wallstedt is the one that could get him Austin Matthews,
well, that's
or Brady Tkachuk,
be a heartbeat.
Whoever,
Like the deal's done in a snap.
Yep. So
thanks, guys.
Yep. Thanks for the question.
Hey, good evening. I have a question about Johansson. Assuming,
that's Anthony's job right there. I'm going to go take a walk.
Assuming Eck and Boldy never get separated, what's the plan with him? Is he going to return, or is there a replacement, do you think, in the summer or in-house? Will someone get elevated?
I don't know. I don't know that those decisions have been made yet. The Wild, I think, have probably 3 that are similar with guys at that point in their career are close, with Zuccarello, Johansson, Tarasenko. Are you probably not going to bring all 3 of them back? But when you look at any of them individually, you'd say, I'd love to have them back if it's at the right price. I think ideally the Wild would love it if Marcus Johansson, on a similar deal to what he is right now, and was playing on your 3rd or 4th line, where you could elevate him if need be. but somebody else has to arrive or show up that can play in the top 6, and I don't know who that is right now.
So, I honestly, like, I would be shocked if Zuccarello retires, but I mean, maybe he's planning on it. Johansson is one. I don't know if he would come back on that same type of deal. Like last year, he was really close to sign. He had lots of options that he could have made more money in the NHL. He just wanted to either play for Minnesota or go back and play for in Karlstad there. And which is Farstad. And I think that he might just say, you know what, I got my 1,000th game and this is it. I'm going to go back. I think that the Wild don't feel like they necessarily have to go get that big center this summer if they could get a huge winger. And I think when you have play driving wingers like Boldy and Kaprizov, I think that they would say, you know what, if we can get Brady Tkachuk, we would do it, and he's the guy that replaces a Johansson or a Zuccarello. So I get the impression that they still believe that in today's day and age, because the game is so fast, that they don't necessarily have to go get that huge center if they could still go get themselves a star winger. I don't know if I necessarily agree when you see teams as deep as Colorado down the stretch, and they're the team that you're probably going to have to contend with for a long time. But that's kind of, which makes me, I guess, to answer your question, who could replace them? I don't think it's anybody necessarily in the organization. It could be somebody to go get. So.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yep. Hang on. I think we got to turn the mic on. There we go. Question.
So, first of all, I'll just state, I think the Wild have played pretty well aside from goaltending and special teams and Middleton. And
other than that, everything's been great.
You know what? It's
other
not
than power play, penalty kill, the first line, the fourth line, the third.
You know what? It's not over. I still believe they're going to win Game 3. Got to win Game 4. It's not over. It's definitely not. The Wild have had spots where they've looked fantastic and have dominated play. So I'm not ready to give up yet. So kind of my first question would be, I know Panther, you love the seeding, but now how do you feel when you got a 1 versus 3 and 4 versus 7? And then I would kind of ask, I know, Russo, you probably know what X injury is and you can't say, but can you give us a little bit of a hint? Is it a broken bone or a ligament?
Bone.
And then
it's bone.
Okay.
It's not knee. Don't worry about knee or anything like that.
All right. It's not good. And then, I love McCarron. You guys probably have too. What would it take to re-sign him?
So I've talked to his agent right when he got traded here, and I've heard through the grapevine that he wanted like $5 million from Nashville. So I personally think that would probably be too much for the Wild to stomach. Because it would take you out of a lot of other things that they want to do this offseason. The other thing is that I don't see really why he wouldn't test the market when you just know that he would be one of the top centers that people go after.
Somebody's going to overpay him.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to overpay him in this year. I mean, the Wild I'd love to have the guy, but I wouldn't. To me, $5 million is too rich, and I think you might even get more than that from teams that just have more holes in their lineup. And So I don't know what it'll take, but I would guess somebody else is going to overpay him. And as far as the playoffs go, I love the first round. The rivalries that were renewed there. I mean, that to me is why this playoff system is so fun. You get that Buffalo-Boston series, the Philly-Pittsburgh series, the Tampa-Montreal, the Minnesota-Dallas. Those were 4 great series, and that's what this system provides is those kind of rivalries in the first round. And, where Minnesota is right now, I mean, yeah, in the West, your numbers are accurate. But if you look overall, if you had a 16-team bracket in the second round, one would be playing 8. This is 1 against 7. I mean, it's not that far off. And, the teams in the East would probably have a bigger complaint than Minnesota would right now. I mean, Tampa had more points than the Wild during the season, and they're going home. And it wasn't because the playoff system was flawed. It was because they lost to Montreal.
And then just one follow-up. How do you feel about Kirill's contract now? I'm not saying he looked bad in the playoffs. He's looked pretty good, but how do you feel about being the highest paid player in the league relative to what you think Makar will sign for?
He's the leading scorer in the playoffs. There's nobody in the league has more points in the playoffs than him. And the only player who has more at even strength is Quinn Hughes, and he's a +8.
He has 2 goals in 8 games without a goalie in net.
But he's got 9 even strength points in the playoffs.
And how many of those were empty netters, by the way?
I think one.
I think
he only
2.
has one.
Regardless, he needs to be doing more. If you ask anybody, first of all, let me just tell you, if you ask anybody in the organization, they would tell you that you're wrong about the playoff format. And I could tell you that they are not.
You're not wrong. It's an opinion.
You're
can't be
wrong with your
It's
opinion.
an opinion.
You're wrong with
do
your
you like
opinion.
blue or red? I like red. No, everybody likes blue. You're wrong. No, it's my preference. I
Blue's
like
better
it.
than red too.
Yeah, I mean,
Everybody
I like
knows
it.
that. But and then the other thing is, like, I think if you ask anybody in the organization, they are not happy with the way that Kirill has played.
Well, I have talked to a lot of people in the organization who are, but I'm just saying he's right now he's a lightning rod, and it's unfair to say that, well, because he is making this much money. I mean, how many points should he have? He's leading the playoffs, so should he have 3 more? Should he have 14
He should
points?
dominate. He should dominate games the way that other superstars do all the time against Minnesota.
And what if
The way
McCarr?
that McKinnon. Are you telling me that McKinnon hasn't taken over the series?
McKinnon's been really good in this series, but but McKinnon has 3 of his points are on the power play. So he hasn't taken over the series 5-on-5. In Dallas, did anybody take over the series? None of them could score unless they were on the power play. Not Robertson, not Heiskanen, not any of them, not Johnston. They all scored on the power play only. So everybody would love to watch Kirill score 3 goals every night. But right now he's got 11 points and he's +8 in the playoffs. If that's the biggest problem with this Wild roster, they're going to hoist the cup in about a month and a half.
But what if McCarr resigns for 15, 16 million and it looks even worse?
I think the Wild had to pay. That's what it took to get him here. And if Kaprizov's not here, do you think,
Anthony, this is going to be the fact of life for the next 8 years? It just is.
Right.
When you milk the Wild out of every single penny, this is the criticism that you're going to get forever. And that he's going to have to accept it, and you're going to have to accept it.
He held him over the
you
barrel.
better accept it.
I'm getting $0 out of his $17 million.
He said, "Give me every last penny you can,"
right.
and that comes with the territory. You better produce. He should have 5 goals.
Like when
first 2 games.
Nathan McKinnon's making 5 less than you, and Connor
right,
McDavid play his ball with Edmonton.
That's changing when McKinnon signs his next contract. I mean, I think by the time that maybe even 2-3 years from now, there are going to be players that are going to make that deal look like it's more palatable, just because with the cap going up, I think as players' contracts turn over. I mean, you think Connor McDavid's going to go into his next free agent contract and say, yeah, just pay me 10 because I want you to have more money to spend around the rest of the roster?
He might go to Dallas and say, "Give me 12.
Maybe.
Let's win a cup."
Yep.
Anyway, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Celebrini is going to be a really interesting one coming up if he just goes with 5 years and, at 14 or 15, or does he go with 8 years and say, give me 20? Or, like as he just mentioned, McCarr. I mean, there's going to be, to your point, a $20 million player soon enough in 2 or 3 years. But it didn't make anybody look good, especially Kirill, when he signed for that much. And then everybody one by one afterwards signed for way less money. So that's the way it's going to be.
You've heard me talk about the Onyx Hunt app on here for years. Well, make sure you download the Onyx Fish app as well, because before you even pull the boat out of the garage, you can sort lakes by species, trophy potential, and keeper potential, so you're not just guessing and you're going out with a plan. You could also use the Onyx Fish app to filter walleye, bass, panfish, whatever you're chasing, and see species abundance and size data so you actually know what's in the lake before you launch. Everything you need to get there and get on fish is all in one app. Boat ramps, lake access points, public versus private land, points of interest like bait shops and camping. It's all built into the app. No more scrambling around 3 different apps or outdated reports. Onyx Fish gives you the proven fishing area data and local insights that used to take years to learn. So you could do a decade of knowledge all in about 10 minutes. So download Onyx Fish on the App Store or visit onyxmaps.com/fish. Spring fishing is here. Go find a lake you've been driving past for years and finally find out if it's worth the launch.
Looking for a pouch that actually stands out? A lot of people I know are reaching for Lucy because it's built for pouch users who want something different. The flavor lasts, the pouch feels great, and it's completely tobacco-free. Lucy pouches come in strengths up to 12 milligrams and have a unique shape that makes them comfortable, easy to use throughout the day. If you want something even more unique, check out Lucy Breakers. They're nicotine pouches with a hydrating flavor capsule inside. Just crack it with your teeth for an instant burst of flavor that lasts. That's what makes Lucy different. Every other pouch feels the same, but Lucy Breakers are doing something no one else is, delivering the longest-lasting, on-demand flavor in pouches. And now Lucy is available in stores nationwide, so it's easier than ever to find. You can use the store locator at lucy.co/stores or get it delivered fast through apps like DoorDash and GoPuff. Lucy is the only pouch that delivers long-lasting, on-demand flavor. Get 20% off your first order when you buy it online at lucy.co/worstseats with the promo code WORSTSEATS. And you don't have to wait. Check out their store locator to find Lucy near you and grab it today. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every customer is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
It pains me to say this, but I'm just curious about between the durability of the second line pair of D, do you see there's going to be any shakeup there in the future?
I mean, well, what Brodin has 2 years left on his deal and Spurgeon has 1. So by that alone, there probably will be, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, Spurgeon this year would have played every game if he had to down the stretch. They were able to rest guys just because of the playoffs and the situation was locked. But I think durability is going to be a question for defensemen at this point in their careers. These guys have been around a long time, and there aren't a lot of them around that are still playing 82 games every year. And even, this year, we haven't really talked about it a lot on this show, but if you look around the league, the condensed schedule and the Olympic tournament have taken their toll on teams everywhere. Dallas was at the top of the list. They weren't the same after the Olympic break when they got guys beat up over there. And Minnesota was fortunate that nobody suffered an injury there, but you can't tell me that tournament didn't carry over into the wild stretch run and probably the guy's ability to stay healthy to some degree.
Yeah, but to his point, Brodin his Olympics was taken away from him because he was hurt again. He is injury prone. I think we could say that fairly at this point. And, I was joking with somebody the other day inside the organization. It's like, that milk in Karlstad just doesn't have calcium or something. Like, just anytime Eriksson Ek or Brodin get hit by anything, something breaks. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to think about because there are guys that you look at and you say they're injury prone, and you just never know. Like, nobody knows. They don't have a magic wand where you can tap somebody and see like what's the pain level that you're feeling right now, because there could be guys that are just playing through injuries. There could be other guys who they feel discomfort at a lower level than some others and come out of lineups. You just never know. And there are times where you'll say, well, this guy's a warrior because he's always coming. Well, he's also always hurt and therefore supposedly playing through something where the next guy might be playing through the same thing and just not saying anything. So you just never know. With broken bones and things like that. But with other injuries, sometimes it's really hard to peg, like who's injury prone, who just mentions that they're injured more often. Thresholds of pain are just different. And so many of these injuries have been of the freak nature that I don't know. It's not like if you have the same injury over and over and over again, then to me that's injury prone. But if it's something different all the time, and the Wild aren't the only team. I remember the Twins for years trying to figure out how to keep Byron Buxton on the field. And it was a different injury, but it was always an injury. Somehow, some way, the guy would just get hurt. And sometimes it was just running. And you just say, how is that possible? And you never know. Maybe he's just got a really low threshold of pain. Maybe he's truly just playing through injuries that others would be sidelined by. You just never know.
I did this big story on Brent Burns for tomorrow, and I talked to Chuck Fletcher for it. And we, gave me a history lesson of, why they traded him back in 2011, all that stuff. But what he actually reminded me of that I forgot about, which is amazing when you consider that he's played 1,569 games and 1,007 in a row, is the fact that the year before Chuck Fletcher got here, he missed 35 games with a shoulder and a head. And then the year before he was traded, he missed 30 some odd games, even more than that, I think, with a concussion. And so there was real concern at that point. I remember writing that about how healthy this guy was going to be in his career. And then he hasn't missed a game since 2013. The closest he's come out of the lineup for any team is when he was bit by a cheetah at the Columbus Zoo when he got attacked holding a cheetah. So it's like all of a sudden he's just nailed in the ribs. That's the closest he's come to missing a game.
Well, he might be the toughest guy to diagnose with a concussion because he's just kind of out there all the time anyway.
Yeah, he's like, this is how I normally feel.
Right.
So, question.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for doing these pods. I been sending them all to my wife, who's not a big hockey fan, and she loves all the recaps. So we're helping grow the game.
Nice.
But yeah, how do you think this playoff run, whether it's 2 more games or 20 more games, is going to affect the negotiations with Quinn? Because I know wanting to win was a big part of him signing wherever he's going to sign in the future. But I'm just curious what you think those permutations may be.
For me, it would be all speculation. I haven't ever talked to him about it, but I get the sense that he may have already made the decision that the team is close enough to being able to win. I think that question has been answered in his mind. I think he sees the superstars around him, saw the way the regular season went, got through a playoff round. I think he sees that the future has a chance to win here.
And to that point, like, I don't think that just losing now all of a sudden changes his mind. That a lot of it's the way that he's treated. I think until you're somewhere else, you don't realize how well the Wild players are treated here. Even just the way they got to Denver and all of a sudden they go into their lounge and they got poker tables in there and ping pong tables in there and big TVs.
Yeah, they had the same thing in Dallas throughout the series.
Yeah, and this is stuff that the Wild purchase and send there and have it set up before they even arrive, and they don't even know how it shows up. The one thing I was told at the Olympics is that Quinn was telling everybody on USA Hockey, you wouldn't believe what it's like in Minnesota. And, so he's also kind of now a recruiter for this team, and he's got a lot of buddies that, between the Bradys and the Austins and the Robert Thomases and all that he's going to just constantly be pumping up this team. We saw Matthew Tkachuk do his podcast, and it was on Twitter today that I'm sure Anthony didn't see, where he's just going on and on and on and on about how great it is to hang out with Boldy and Faber. The players are going to want to come here. This is now a place, a destination. And I just think, look, does he want to sign 8 years? Maybe not. But does he want to sign 3, which would give this team 4 to align himself with his brother? And then maybe they test free agency together or come to Minnesota together or go to Jersey, whatever it is. I think he's re-signing. I mean, when the Wild offer him a ton of money this offseason, it's going to be hard to turn down, I think. So
yeah, thanks, guys.
Question.
Yeah, first on the playoff format, I don't understand with this great first round matchup that ends at 1 a.m. and drops the puck at 10 p.m.
Well, I don't
Eastern.
like the start times.
You could have
Yeah.
you could have this matchup in round 2 or 3 on prime time across the country.
Yeah.
Instead, you're putting
I don't
on
like the start
when
times,
half the country's
but
asleep.
I don't like the start times, but the games. I mean, these are your rivals, and I love seeing these battles in the first round. And you watch that Buffalo Montreal rivalry that's going to turn into something too. Tampa Montreal next year is going to carry over. We've seen it with Minnesota Dallas, and now Minnesota Colorado. This is what makes it fun. You bang heads for 6 or 7 times in the playoffs after 4 times in the regular season. This is
it's still fun.
And that would happen with whoever they play in the first.
Yeah, it's still fun in the second and third
We're
round.
going to play them 4 times though.
But my question is
are we really going to go over the schedule again? Like they do play they play pretty much everybody the same.
No, they don't.
Yes,
They're going to
it's
play
either
their
3 or
division.
4.
They're going to play their division 4 times.
It's
the
not
Pacific
like the old
3.
days where you were going 8. This
I know.
is negligible.
You play the division 4 times, the Pacific 3, and the East 2. I mean, what? That's you play a third of your games in your own division over the course of the season. That's a lot.
You're playing 1 extra game inside your division than you are against Vegas. It would be the same rivalry. If they played Vegas every year, if they played Anaheim, if they whoever it is,
it's
when
different.
you play in the
Plus
playoffs,
the travel part is a real thing, and the jumping time zones and all that. I mean, that takes its toll on teams. So stay in your own time zone as long as you possibly can.
Oh, brother.
All right. Well, my My question
if they had played Utah or Colorado in the first round, which would have been plausible, they would have changed time zones anyway. That's a baloney, absolutely made up.
You're the one who
rationale.
Has anybody ever heard anybody complain about flights back and forth more than this guy? Like you imagine if you were flying back and forth from Anaheim to Minnesota 4 times in a series.
I would love it.
Yeah,
you get
right,
so
get
many
more
miles.
Exactly. That's really what we should do. What could get the most miles?
As long as you are also kicked off the charter like last round, I'm perfectly fine. I'd fly to freaking Iceland.
I voluntarily went off the charter for one trip last round.
Yeah.
But my question is should we, with a premium on skating in the series instead of physicality, should we be seeing Brink sub in for Nick Foligno? I haven't seen a whole lot of physicality out of Nick Foligno anyway.
Well, it's an interesting question because we've talked a lot about how the Wild have the ability to change the makeup of their lineup with some of the players they have. But I think right now they're more apt to say, we want to change the way the games are played into be a heavier, more physical game rather than try and get faster and match Colorado's speed. That's just my opinion. I'm guessing. But I think they're going to look at it more like we need the Folignos and a Foligno Sturm line or something to start setting the tone for this rather than making it a track meet.
Yeah. I was talking to Eric the other day also, and he was saying that he'd love to see Brink and thinks he could be a help in this series, but I don't know. I mean,
especially with question marks at center where if you put Brink in, Yurov might be a guy who has to come out, and I'm not sure you're ready to do that.
I agree. Question.
Thanks for your coverage, guys. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
My question is, who's the next captain of the Minnesota Wild? Is it Faber or Boldy?
Or Hughes or Kaprizov? I mean, that's the cool
thing.
Now there's a lot of guys that could be.
And a whole bunch of guys who have been captains where they've been before.
I personally think it should be Faber, but I would say that things have changed. Kurill's taken on more of a leadership. Boldy has taken on more leadership than I ever thought that he had that ability. And then obviously you have a former captain in Quinn here now. I still think it should be Faber, Anthony. Long deal, $8.5 million.
It's a tough question. Like to say should be, I don't know. You couldn't go wrong with any of those guys. But I'm trying to think of and guess who it might be. And I'd say Faber or Boldy are probably the best two guesses.
Yeah.
I'd say right now I would lean Faber, but boy, Boldy has really become a good leader with this team.
Big time.
Nice to have options, though.
Yes. Any other questions before we wrap up? That was a lot, Anthony.
There were a lot of questions.
Anything else you want to talk about? What do you think so far this Vegas Anaheim series? 1-1?
Yeah, I'm surprised, actually. And Anaheim...
Kyle Granlund?
Anaheim could have won game 1, too. I really thought Vegas would be able to control that series a little differently than they have. Anaheim had more shots, more chances in game 1, even though Vegas won. I still think Vegas wins the series, but Anaheim's been more competitive than I thought they were going to be. I think Carolina Philly's going just the way we thought it would. The Buffalo Montreal series is going to be entertaining hockey. I think that's going to be a long series.
Yeah. I thought it would be a little more fire wagon hockey than we saw yesterday. I mean,
remember
Buffalo
Montreal's probably exhausted. They just played the 7 games they did against.
And Buffalo
Tampa.
only had 1 shot in the third period. So, all right, a couple more questions, then we'll wrap up here. Yep.
I just got a quick one. Is you guys hang out at on road trips? Are you two friends, or my kid thinks that you guys are kind of battle back and forth most of the time, but
both
you have
are
breakfast
true.
together, and
both are true.
Yeah.
Pretty much this podcast is like over dinner.
Yeah. We do spend quite a bit of time together on the road and have for 15 years now, but we do go at each other.
Yeah. That's what makes it fun.
Right.
So,
sometimes
but we are friends. You know,
Absolutely.
it's like when I'm on the Fan and I rip into Fallness. I do it out of respect. So, even though
I hope
again,
it's
I'm
different
always,
than that.
Yeah.
I hope it's way different than that.
But you know what I mean. Like it's all a shtick for the most part. But you do get under my skin.
It's not hard. Just show up and smile. And why are you so happy?
That's true. I do get pissed when people are happy. All right, last question.
I have a quick one too. What did you think of Windsong North?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
The first time I had played the north side, and I liked it a lot. It was the wind was a bear today, but it was I liked it. I've played the south a couple times last year, and it was fun today, and it was I liked the kind of the wide open feel to it, and I liked it. You played it?
Not yet. No, I played south. I haven't played north.
Right. How'd you know I played the north side?
Twitter.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't know I said which side I played.
Mary, if you want to ask a question, you got to go to the mic. The people at home can't hear you from that table. I'm just saying.
Well, LaPanta, enjoy your play-by-play calls. And so what's going to happen now with FanDuel is done or whatever?
Yep.
Yeah, good question.
FanDuel is no more, and it was kind of tough to see that end. There were a lot of people that were a part of that for a long time. I was there. I think I told the story the night we signed off. I was there the night that they launched and rebranded Midwest Sports Channel as Fox Sports. At that time, it was Fox Sports Net North. But we did the WCHA Final Five, and I was a sideline reporter for the very first show that we ever did in 2001. So I think I might have been one of the last standing because everybody else seemed to move on. Apparently I had nowhere better to go. But we don't know for sure is the short answer. We're hoping that as many people that have been a part of it will go wherever the broadcasts go. But the Wild are looking at a lot of different options, and I think they'll have decisions made pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think they're a couple weeks from announcing the plans.
Yeah, and they talked to other regionals. They looked at taking it on themselves, doing a combination of streaming with a light-up channel or an over-the-air channel. All are still in play. They haven't quite finalized any of it yet, but hopefully and I think their plan is, at least for the people that like the fans would see are on-air people, I think most of them, we hope, will be back together. But until it's done, you just never know, and you don't know exactly how it'll look. Like if it's on an over-the-air channel, will they have pre- and post-game shows every night? I don't know. Will they? There's a lot of details that have to be worked out. What'll the shows look like? What'll the graphics look like? What's the music going to sound like? The replay, all that stuff. Yeah,
hopefully
there's just a lot of details yet to be determined. But I sure hope that most of our people are back.
That would
and
be
a part
cool,
of it.
and because you guys do a great job. I do think there's going to be a combination of streaming, don't you think, and over the air.
Yeah,
I think they've talked to Amazon. I mean, it's going to be really interesting what they come up with, and I think they're a couple weeks from announcing it. Thanks everybody for coming out to Tuttle's.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to our incredible sponsors. Again, you can follow us on X, Instagram, TikTok at Talk North, and also YouTube. I really am fascinated by this TikTok. I want to see Anthony like in the parking lot dancing to like some weird music, some weird trend going on.
I have never looked at it, so I think it's highly unlikely I'll find it.
Yeah. If you're ever in a mall or a parking lot, you see some like teenagers like dancing alone, like staring at their phone, it's probably for TikTok. I'm sure
I'll check with Ariana.
Yeah.
I know Ariana's a big TikTok user.
Yeah. By the way, our socials apparently are all worst seats in the house. I should check that out. Apparently, so our YouTube, you're saying it's worst seats in the house.
It's just worst seats, I think.
Or seats. Okay.
On Instagram, I know it's worst seats.
Okay, and then same with TikTok. Okay, look at that. Boy, Hannah's busy.
If
back
only
there.
we had people here who knew what those addresses were.
Exactly. Thanks to our incredible sponsors and also for our new sponsors. Thanks for joining us at the Aquarius Home Services Studio at Tuttle's. Aquarius Home Services, your local authorized dealer for Connecticut water treatment systems, Onyx Maps, Great Clips, Stretch Labs, and Lucy Nicotine pouches. And just a reminder, we will be doing a podcast after Game 3 as well on Sunday. Thanks, everybody.
So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world